Welcome back to another episode of the Body Proof Podcast, where we talk to leading industry professionals to give you tips and advice on how you can best achieve your health and fitness goals. Now, in this episode, we have James Cant from Sydney, IFBB Pro physique model. James was my first ever coach about 6 years ago. I think I was one of his, I must have been somewhere close to one of your first online clients. So yeah, we got a long history. James is 100% considered one of the top professionals in the industry, someone that's been a great help and assistance to me over the years. I've been following him, taking his guide, taking his advice, and I love his approach to health and fitness. It's something, and his philosophy is a way that not many people do look and talk about health and fitness at the moment. Basically because not many people have the level of knowledge and understanding that James has. So hopefully in this episode, James is going to share some of that knowledge. He's going to help us understand his philosophy, why he does things the way that he does. And we're going to get some takeaways that we can all take away and put into our own health and nutrition by the end of this. So James Cant, ladies and gentlemen, introduce yourself.
Mate, after that, I don't know how I'm going to speak. You've just talked me up so much. Now, guys, I guess like the most notable things about me, yeah, I've been a pro bodybuilder for a while now. I turned pro when I was 20, so I was pretty young when I got that. I've competed all over the world, done that in bodybuilding. And recently, like with, in terms of my coaching, the way that I look after clients, as Steve was saying before, the way that we look at things is quite different. I got a background in medical science. I went to uni for quite a long time, did a lot of study there, but actually found that that with a lot of the stuff that we were taught, it was a little bit lacking. And so through learning a lot and a lot of years in the trenches and my own struggles as well with stuff like IBS, anxiety, depression, all those sorts of things, that we had to kind of make a different system to look after our clients. Because what's out there, and Steve, you'll agree with me on this, what's out there at the moment with a lot of the info just isn't sufficient. So yeah, that's pretty much a little bit about me, man. We do stuff very, very differently to most people. We focus very, very much on looking at first stress and health and all that, and then putting body composition second, because whenever you look after stress and you look after the body, you look after health, body composition always follows. So yeah, it's a bit about me.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, this is what I'm always preaching. So it's so nice for me to connect with someone that has the same belief system as me, because the general consensus in the industry, or what we hear a lot of, is calorie deficit. But and that is, we can never deny that. That's the basic fundamental of thermodynamics, and we know that 100% to be true in science. But what people aren't talking about is the importance of overall health. Things like you said, stress, anxiety, depression, digestive issues, these contribute towards your overall health. And the healthier you are, the faster that calorie deficit is going to take effect. So if you've got a hormonal imbalance, you've got digestive issues, you're not sleeping correctly, you've got suppressed testosterone, you can be in a calorie deficit, but the process is going to be so much harder and so much slower than if you had a healthy organism. So like James said,
you feel like absolute crap.
You don't want to do it. You don't want to stick to it.
Whenever you're not healthy, you feel like crap. It sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with the calories in, calories out, yes, we know it's to be true. And I'm certainly, of all people, not going to deny that. But like with how it is, like what you're telling me, all these people are screaming out calories in, calories out, calorie deficit, calorie deficit, calorie deficit. It's like, what? So you think that people don't know that they need to eat less and exercise more? I mean, everybody knows that already. It's not something novel. It's not something new. It's not something helpful. What we're going to look at is, why do people struggle to exercise more? Why do they actually struggle to eat less? There's no point in just yelling at them the same thing over and over and over again, because it's just not helpful. And hey, you know what? Australians are still 2/3 overweight or obese. It's not doing anything.
Yeah, that's right. So, so obviously with this sort of educated approach, how, if somebody came into your program, what would sort of the steps be, or the system be, that you sort of walk them through to help them be as healthy as possible before we sort of looked at optimizing body composition? How would you sort of identify how healthy they are? How do you then get them as healthy as possible?
The first thing that we do is we look at their state of mind. Whenever somebody isn't like feeling great, like up top, whenever psychologically you got something going on which is holding you back, be it anxiety, depression, uncertainty in your life, anything along those lines, you're going to have a really, really freaking hard time. You're going to have a really, really difficult time. So that's the first thing that we look for. And we actually just start helping people like that. We help them to sleep. We actually help them to digest their food better. We help them to overcome certain struggles they have in their life, and actually just show them a little bit of love and a little bit of care. that's one of the things that I find that this industry really lacks at the moment is genuine care. Because let's be honest, most trainers don't give a shit about people. All they see clients as is just money. Like that's all it is. And like with us, we want to just make sure that all of our clients actually feel loved when they come into it. They're part of a community and they've actually got people who do genuinely give a shit about them. And then from there, we can implement some of the more, techie dieting and training strategies. But first, right there, right at the very beginning, what we do is we make sure that we have got them a support which is going to get them psychologically and mentally really, really sound, and then implement the rest.
Beautiful. So you check their sort of state of mind, make sure that they're in a good place to start exercising and dieting. And on a sort of physiological level, where would you sort of look and what would you sort of go through with them on a physiological level?
Dude, so we have so much. We have a heap of tests that we do whenever someone starts. I mean, first of all, there are 2 calls before they even get onto it. So they've got to apply, they've got to do an initial call with Soph, and then after that, a second call with myself or one of my boys. And then after that, once we've already taken all our notes from that, we then go through and put them through a series of questionnaires. And with that, we do all the standard stuff. So we calculate TDE. So we look at like what their height, weight, age, all those sorts of things are. But then we also go through and we put them through like a full mobility section where we actually see, well, hey, is this person going to be able to squat? Are they going to be able to deadlift? Are they going to be able to bench press? And all those sorts of things, and make sure they can actually execute the movements properly. Then we've got a full section like where we look at digestion. How is their digestion? We look at their sleep. We look at their stress levels. We run this assessment, very controversial one, the Braveman assessment. We run a modified version of that, which roughly tells us like how their state of mind is, what stresses they're under, all those sorts of things. And that's the majority of the assessment. There are a heap of other things in there too. We also run bloods and do all that. But yeah, we won't get into that today because that's pretty gnarly stuff.
I love it. Beautiful. That is coaching. That is world-class coaching. If people came into a program and wanted training and nutrition and thought that was it, they can get that for free off the internet.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's proper coaching. Okay, so you'll run them through some testing, some sort of questionnaires, and sort of an interview phase. Get as much information as possible. Then you'll sort of design protocols off the back of that information, and then from there you would sort of give them training and nutrition to follow as well.
Yeah, 100%, man. So we map out like everything for our guys and our girls. So we do, first of all, like rules throughout the day to follow. So for example, how much water you got to drink, how many steps you've got to do, how much sunlight you got to get, all that sort of stuff. Then we set them up with like morning routines. So like going through and just how they wake up in the morning, the best way to start your day so they can absolutely crush it. A big part of our training too, it's not about just like making someone jacked and shredded, but also making it so that they can succeed at their job, they can make more money, they can have better relationships, all that sort of stuff. So that's how we start setting up their day with that. We teach them how to end their day so they can sleep well, nutrition, training, supplementation, the whole lot there, and even just like goal setting for general life. So that's a pretty decent overview. On top of that too, all their mobility procedures so they can actually move properly, all their warm-ups, all of that stuff.
Yeah, beautiful. I remember when you were coaching me, you gave me so much stuff to do. It's nothing I'd ever seen before. It was all about like avoiding injury, correcting any sort of postural issues. It was very, very, very thorough. And that was 5-6 years ago. So I can only imagine how your coaching has evolved now.
Big time.
Yeah, so you're not just setting them up for training and nutrition. You're setting them up to succeed at life. You're setting them up to be healthy first, then how to win the day and be successful at life. So that contributes towards a better mindset and allows them to follow their training and nutrition even more thoroughly.
Yeah.
And then sort of like with your nutrition, sort of where's your philosophies and where's your sort of beliefs around that? How do you have protocols that you like to stick with? You know, like are you big on keto or anything like that? Obviously, I probably know the answer here, but just for the people that are listening, like how do you approach your nutrition? What sort of systems do you have in place, and what sort of belief systems do you have there?
Yeah, so really with that, it comes down to the individual and the context. Context is king, and you see all these, can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay, so all these fucking people, right? And they're saying that this thing's the best, this thing's the best, and you need to do it if it fits your macros, you need to do keto, you need to do intermittent fasting. It's a load of absolute crap. Context is king every single time. It's all about the context which you have. You can't give somebody who's not going to stick to a keto diet a keto diet, right? You just simply can't do that. You can't give somebody who's absolutely starving in the morning, right, or highly stressed, an intermittent fasting diet. It's all about the context. Like, that's the number one thing. And that's why we test. That's why we talk with people, because if you're not testing, if you're not talking with people, you're not going to give them the right program in the end of the day. So it's all about context. I'm a massive fan of making sure that every single diet fits the person. So if that means that that person needs to eat, I don't know, a burger every single night, make it happen. That's what we do. We make it so they can have a burger every single night. Now, with that, we have constraints. So our defaults are no gluten, no dairy. Whenever you train with us, no gluten, no dairy. The reason being is because out of however many clients I've had, literally every single client who's done that said, oh my God, what an amazing difference. How much better do I feel now from doing that? And so that's pretty much the one thing that we're really, really firm on. But other than that, it's all about making it fit into the client's lifestyle. Because let's remember, in the end of the day, really very few people want to be a pro bodybuilder and just live this lifestyle. What they want to do is they want to be healthier, they want to be happier, they want to have better relationships, they want to feel better about themselves. Those are the things that they want. So why the fuck would we get them to do a keto diet, right, when that's what their goal is? Because the keto diet, well, in addition to not really having any actual body composition effects, right, it's not going to set them up for the goals that they truly want. And so what we do is we pair their nutrition with what exactly they want and what their highest priorities are.
Yeah, beautiful. I have like one client out of 100 that's on keto. And when people come into my program and they always say, I think keto works for me really well, I'm like, why? Why do you think that? Do you have any information to support that? Because if you're just going off of a feeling or because you've been told, like, we need to know why we're doing something. And if you can't justify why you're doing something, then it's probably not right.
100%. And there are times when ketos can be great. I mean, if you want good brain function, if you don't want to be hungry while you're dieting, like, keto is going to be good. But if you want optimal athletic performance, forget about it. If you want optimal body composition where you're still staying nice and full and you're not getting stringy and small, keto, forget about it. It's not there for you.
Yeah, it's a lot more enjoyable. Life's a lot more enjoyable when you do have carbs.
Big time.
All right, let's move on to training. Where do you sort of sit with training? How do you structure your training? What do you find works well for your clients?
Dude, this is another big one that I got a massive fucking gripe with. I'm sorry, I'm swearing so much.
I love it. No, it's brilliant. Let's get it all out there.
Like with these things and the way that a lot of people train, they just like throw people into these massive workouts that are just totally inspecific. In the end of the day, let's just think about what training's there to do. Training's there to stimulate the muscle. That's it. Like, in the end of the day, we train to stimulate a muscle. So therefore, in order to stimulate that muscle optimally, we need to be able to actually move that way properly. Now, the number of times I've seen people on programs doing barbell back squats, right, and they can't do it. Their butt's shifting over to one side. They're all over the place. Their hips are shooting up. Like, it's an ugly looking thing, but they're persisting at it because it's in their program. But it's just the most stupid thing. Like, with us, what we do is we get our clients so that they can actually move properly first. So we have like a whole thing where, first of all, we test that right at the very beginning, and then we get them on some corrective stuff that we've worked with a series of physios and osteos to like make it a freaking awesome protocol. So we get them following that protocol to start with so that they can actually squat properly, they can actually bench properly and all that. And that's when we then, after we've got them to a stage where they can actually move properly, we then put them through some really hectic programs depending on what they want to do. At the same time, we're going to put in context once again. What do they want to achieve? It really depends. Like, the way that we would train somebody depends on what they want to achieve. If you've got an office worker, a CEO, right? I work with a lot of like high-flying guys, big time businessmen, right? That's predominantly who I coach. And like with these fellas, they don't want to be training for 2 hours. They don't want to be exhausted after they work out. They literally want to get in, right? Do something really short and sharp that's going to be easy, and it's not going to lead them to burnout. So what I do is I literally just match their frequency, I match their volume, and I match their exercises to allow that to happen. Because that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to enhance their lives, not ruin their lives at the core, in order just to get them a little bit leaner and a little bit bigger. So that's my philosophy on it. It's always about context, and it's always about making sure that the client can actually move properly and actually perform the exercise properly before loading them up with, 30, 40, 50 sets.
Yeah, more weight does not equal more results.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, it's like I get it with the athletes more than the execs. They always think I need to do more training means more results, and I'm like, it comes to a point of diminishing returns. You can only actually adapt what you can effectively recover from. So let's look at that. Yeah. Let's ask that question: how much can you recover from? just because so-and-so is doing 90-minute workouts or 2-hour workouts, that doesn't mean that that's what you should be doing.
100%, 100%. With athletes, they're a whole different ball game, right? I mean, with them, you want to push them to the limits without breaking. Sometimes push them past the limits just to build character and build resilience with them. But at the same time, that's where all your biomarkers and biometrics come in. And that's another thing we're massive on. I think everybody should be doing that. Everyone should be doing that.
Yeah. So you measure daily biomarkers, and which biomarkers is for people that don't understand what that is. How do you measure them, and what biomarkers do you measure?
Yeah, gotcha. So biomarkers are things which literally tell you how the body's functioning, how it's working, what it's doing. I'm a massive fan of measuring resting heart rate in the morning. That is the simplest and easiest one ever. You just measure it every single day and you see where it's at. Now, for us, what we've found is that people who've got lower resting heart rates always crush it. People with higher resting heart rates, they don't do so well. There are a few people out there who recommend higher resting heart rates, like in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. I've inherited a few of their clients in the past and they're not in a good way. So I haven't seen, there are some people who say that, but I just never see that working ever from the guys that I work with. But always go for low resting heart rate. On top of that too, heart rate variability is king. It's like heart rate variability is the thing which it measures the RR interval, like in your beats of your heart. So the time between like two different beats. And if that's a very, very large variation, that's great. If it's a smaller variation, not so great. And then on top of that too, just simple ones like the ability to touch your toes, right? Can you actually touch your toes? Can you bend down? Are you flexible enough to touch your toes? Because when you're approaching burnout, you get less flexible. That's why, ever know when you do a massive training block, like you're doing an accumulation style of training block, and at the end, you're buggered and you're stiffed and you're banged up. That's why, just because of that, because when you start getting more stressed out, you start getting tighter. Your body just bang, bundles up. So that's the next thing that we do measure. And then on top of that too, sleep. Sleep is a huge one. As soon as you start approaching burnout, that's when your sleep goes to shit, like straight away, really, really quickly. That's probably one of the first affected things. You guys will probably notice that when you do a massive session, you pushed a little bit too hard. You know those 2-hour sessions that you do where you just keep going because you're like, oh, I feel great today. I feel great. And then that night you're so wired you can't sleep. Well, yeah, that's literally the first thing that you start seeing affected when you start approaching that burnout phase. So they're probably the 4 easiest ones to explain, the 4 main ones that we track.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking straight off what you just said there is when we talk or when we look at the execs, it's like you need to earn the right to do more. If you want more results, you have to earn the right to do more to get more results because of all these biomarkers that you spoke about, these are going to be down-regulated because of the stress that you're under through work.
Yeah.
So you
yeah,
need to
100%.
look after yourself more so we can give you more. We can't put you in a bigger deficit, give you more training until you can manage your biomarkers better.
100%, 100%, man. I mean, one thing that we bang on about all the time are the 5 stresses, right? And what we do with these are the 5 main stresses that we see in the body. So that's like stuff like digestive stress, resting stress. So, by the way, digestive stress, it's like stuff like what are you putting in your mouth, right? Food, drugs, alcohol, that sort of stuff. Resting stress. Are you actually getting enough time to chill out? Are you having enough social time? Are you getting enough time to actually sleep? All that stuff. We've got psychological stress like work, finances, all those sorts of things. Your boss is a dickhead, right? Those sorts of ones that stress you out. And then on top of that too, like your emotional stress, and then finally physical stress. So with that, if you have too much of those other stresses, you can't increase your physical stress by doing more weights, because the more weights you do, well, that's just another stress added on. So you need to actually cleave off and get rid of those earlier stresses, because until you do that, your physical stress is just going to keep tipping you over the edge. And I mean, for anyone who's coached here before, we've probably all coached a corporate person at one stage or another. Now, most people can't get results with corporates because let's be honest, they're freaking impossible because they're so strung out all the time, right? They follow everything to the T, but they just don't get results. Well, that's why, because their stress threshold, they're over their stress threshold. They've got too much stress in their life to actually train enough or diet well enough to actually elicit a response, like elicit a good physical response.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's really hard for those guys as well because they've got to try to incorporate that into their life, and it's kind of like the health almost takes a second, third, fourth sort of seat in the priority row.
100%.
It's just
100%.
They've got to understand it before they can sort of and respect it before they can apply it. Yeah, it's a difficult one. Yeah, it's definitely like I think the longer you work in the industry and the better you become as a coach, the better you understand that.
Yeah, well, it's all experience, right, man? I mean, I've got this, and at the same time, though, a lot of people don't ever get it. I mean, the guys who are entrenched in evidence-based stuff, like they're the ones who, and this isn't calling them out, but they're the ones who I often inherit their clients, all the ones that they don't get results with, right? They tell you about the ones they do, but not the ones they don't. So
Yeah.
I'm the guy that most people go to when they can't get results. When everybody else fails, when all the easy options fail, you come to me, right? And I fix you up. I mean, I've got a girl at the moment. She's my favorite client ever. She's an absolute freaking gem. But I tell you what, over the course of a year, we've managed to drop her down 10 kilos, right? 10 kilos over a year, really not that much on like a 60, 70 kilo girl. But with it, we got that. But before then, she wasn't having any progress. I mean, she'd been through coach after coach after coach. And this woman's a soldier, sticking to the T, sticking to absolutely everything to the T, eating 1,000 calories or less routinely, training 5-6 days a week for an hour to 2 hours each time, like doing all those sorts of things. And it wasn't until she started working with me when we actually paid attention to her stress and, you know, said that, well, shit, there's a reason why you're not responding. It's because you've got so much other stuff on. That was when she actually started dropping, and now she's crushing it. She's at the lowest weight she's been since she was like 18. And the reason why that happened is not because I got her training more, not because I put her into more of a deficit by reducing her calories and increasing her energy expenditure, but literally by reducing her stress, getting her chilled out. And she's now actually training half as much as what she was when she started with me. And she's only eating a few calories less. That's it. That's all the difference.
Yeah, beautiful. You get on really well with Dan Garner because your philosophy is very
Smart
similar
man.
to his. Yeah, it's like health before everything else. If we get that right, everything else becomes a whole lot easier. And you can't keep pushing that calorie deficit, more training sort of nail. You can't keep hitting that nail on the head. You can't keep eating less and keep doing more. Like, it comes to a point where we have to understand the healthier you are, the easier it's going to be.
100%.
All right, I've got a couple of questions here, James. We spoke about your approach and your philosophy, and you know, I think that's world class. You know, just off the back of this conversation, if I didn't know anything else about you, I'd say you're one of the top coaches in the world because of your approach and your philosophy. You know, that really separates you from everybody else, and the fact that you're not placing your philosophy and coaching style off of evidence. You're not basing it off evidence solely. You've got the knowledge, you've got the qualifications, but you've worked with people, you've done it yourself, and you've worked with enough people to know that there's more to it than just the basics. And that's what not many people are talking about. I don't hear many people talking about that in the industry. I don't know why not. Maybe they don't understand it enough. Maybe they're too scared to speak out, but it comes from working with people. You don't understand the importance of it until you've worked with people. And a lot of people will just look at it if they've got a client that they're not getting results with and go, oh, they're just cheating on the diet.
100%, man. I hear that all the fucking time. I'm like,
Same
idiot. Why are they cheating
yeah.
on the diet then? Why?
Yeah, as a coach, it's not your job to prescribe training and nutrition. It's your job to get results for that client.
100%. 100%.
All right, James. So I think you've pretty much answered this in what you've said already, but what's some common mistakes or issues that you see with clients that come into your program? What's the biggest problems people are facing when they come to you?
You know what's crazy, man? The biggest one by far is that nobody gives a shit about them, right? That's it. And it's a really sad thing to say because they bounce from coach to coach to coach, right? And these coaches just haven't cared about them. They haven't given them the time of day and they haven't been listened to. That is the biggest thing. So I get clients, right, that have been through doctors, gastroenterologists, like all these types of people, right? Higher level, you'd think, inverted commas, higher level, right? And I say that with the utmost disdain. But these higher level people and PTs and whatnot who are meant to have fixed their problems, they just haven't listened. They haven't listened at all. When somebody comes to you with a problem, they want to fix that problem. It's about finding a method that works for them. And so once again, these people, they just get slammed into this lack of care, this low care, just generic mold and these generic things that they need to follow. And that's probably the biggest one. That is the single biggest thing, is that these people who come to me and they need help and they're like literally reaching out for help. Shit, I get people crying on the phone to me every single day because they really want to just be better. They're sick of it. They're over it. And they just want to be better, but nobody's actually giving them the genuine care they need. That's probably like the biggest thing. The next thing after that is just going to be around mental health, okay? In the end of the day, like I look at this in a very, very black and white manner, right? If you have got like a body composition issue, you generally know how to fix it. And that is by, you know, unless you're a corporate or someone in a very high stress lifestyle, you just got to eat less and exercise more. Now, anybody who is in that super high stress environment, there's a reason which is blocking them from doing that. Be it self-sabotage, be it they want that comfort of food, be it they don't want to be seen by people to be doing well. They've got a really negative environment around them. All these sorts of things. That's the next biggest thing, which is actually holding people back. I mean, how many times do you see a client who'll be crushing it for like 4 to 6 weeks? Absolutely crushing it. You'll tell them how well they're doing. Their friends will tell them how well they're doing. They shit themselves and then go and binge for the next 3 days and put back on all the weight they just lost. I mean, how many times do you see that?
I had a client, he was in like 1 to 2 week cycles.
Yeah.
He would do well for 1 or 2 weeks and then completely self-sabotage for the equal amount of time. And it was such a short cycle. And it just came down to the fact that his family were all overweight and lived unhealthy lives. As soon as he went home into that environment, just wrecked everything. He never
100%.
thought that he was worthy of receiving that goal. And because he never deemed himself as being worthy, like, he could do it. Like I gave him no training, no nutrition to follow. I'm not giving you anything to follow. Don't follow anything. Just train and eat as you want. And then he did it. And then he come back and was like, I didn't train and I ate shit. And I was like, why did you do that? Because I feel like I'm overweight anyway, so it doesn't really matter if I eat anything, if I eat bad anyway. And then as soon as he identified with that, I was like, it's in your head, man. It's nothing to do with the training or nutrition being right or wrong. It's in your head. As soon as he identified with that, he started moving forward.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Most of the time it's that, man. And that's the craziest thing about people just saying, just stick to the plan, just stick to the plan, just stick to the plan. It's like, well, no, you've got to help these people actually have a plan that works for them. Sure, you can't let them run wild and be idiots and eat whatever they like. You've got to make sure that you've got a plan there which is agreeable, which they can follow, and also look at the reasons why they're falling down. Instead of just ramming calorie deficit down their throats, to actually give them some care, right? Give somebody some care and actually help them get past the mental barriers which are blocking from getting there in the first place.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so I know a lot of our listeners here are going to be thinking already about their New Year's resolution. 2020, this is going to be their year. They're going to get on top of things. 3 tips or 3 pieces of advice or 3 steps that you would put at the top of their priority list to help move forward and achieve those goals.
Number 1, why the fuck are you waiting till New Year's, right? Why the fuck are you waiting till New Year's? That is the biggest cop-out. This is tough love right here. That is the biggest cop-out I've ever heard in my whole entire life. It is not a thing. What is so magical about the first day of New Year? We invented the calendars. Calendars aren't a thing. They're a wizzy, they're a wazi. They're nothing, right? There's no significance about it other than you using that as an excuse to push off actually doing something about stuff you're not happy about. That's the first biggest thing. Is that too harsh?
No. Honest. Yeah, honest, and I'm sure people will appreciate the honesty as well. All right, 2 more. Once they've started in the gym today, after the podcast comes out.
After that comes out, next thing after that, easiest one, drink more water, right? We get our clients drinking 70 mils per kilo body weight in water. Now, every time I say that number, people freak out. I had one person say to a friend that they were going to drown if they drank that much water. That's absolutely ridiculous, right? So I'm 100 kilos, I'm a bit over 100 kilos, so I drink 7 liters of water a day. If you're 50 kilos, drink 3.5 liters of water a day. Yes, you will pee a fair bit. And you'll be drinking a lot and you'll feel like you're a bit of a camel. But what will end up happening is your brain will be clearer after that. You'll feel less sore. You'll sleep way better. You'll feel way better. And you'll end up making better decisions for it too. So start doing that. Spread the water throughout the day and just get more water in while cutting out all the other crap like, sweetened soft drinks and all those other sweet, sugary things that we go to, coffees, teas, all that. Well, tea's fine, but coffee, get rid of that. All those sorts of things, just replace them with water. You're going to feel amazing, like way, way better. 70 mils per kilo of body weight.
Beautiful. That's 2 tips. Make a start. Drink more water. Last one for the guys.
Last one, biggest one by far, if you haven't already, try cutting out gluten and dairy, okay? Now, I know there's a lot of conjecture around this. People, once again, go back to that whole, well, it's all about calorie balance. Yes, that is the thing that the thing that underpins it. But these 2 things, these are the biggest things that we've found that when eliminating them from your diet, you just feel so much better. All right. The best part about them too is that it's so freaking easy to do because everything's gluten and dairy free these days. You've got a whole gluten-free section in the supermarkets. So that's a piece of piss. You just get rid of it. It is easy, simply the best thing that you'll literally do. Try it for a couple of weeks. And then if a couple of weeks you feel no different and you think that you want to go back and eat donuts again, great, do it. But I guarantee that any of you actually give it a serious go, you'll try it. You'll be like, oh my God, I actually feel way better in my guts. I'm not as bloated. I'm not as gassy. My brain's clear. My joints aren't as sore. You're going to feel immensely better. And that's the reason why I preach it, because I absolutely believe in that. That's a massive one.
Beautiful. I love it. I love your work, James. All right, let's wrap this up. For the people that are listening and they want to get in touch with you, they want to get coached by you, or they just want to learn some more about you, how can they find you?
The easiest way is just to message me on Facebook, James Cant IFBB Pro. I'm sure there'll be a link here somewhere, but just message me on Facebook, right? I'm on there. My team are on there. Someone's always going to be there to help out. So just send us a message and we're happy to chat with you.
Yeah, so that's James and Cant is Cant.
Nailed it.
Beautiful. All right, James, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I'm just going to hit stop and then I'll catch up with you after.
Unreal, bro.